Okay, now we're going to talk about sign names. Sign names are given to you from the deaf community. A hearing person cannot give you a sign name. Now, you will see some teachers that will use sign names in class just for the use of class and getting people used to it, but it is not given to you by a hearing person. It is assigned to you by a deaf person. So for example, my name is Rebecca Peridot, but my sign name is RP. I received my sign name from a little deaf girl whenever I was going to school for teaching deaf and hard of hearing kids. And I was working at Publix at the time, and I had a name badge. And I was like, oh, I get to sign, I get to sign, I get to sign. And I'm like, she goes, I know. And she saw my name tag, and she's like, oh, you have a name tag. So she started calling me B for Becca, because that's what she called me. And over the years, it's kind of morphed as different deaf people have interacted with me, as my career has progressed. So as I started teaching, it went to RT, which was my maiden name, Rebecca Tempe, and then it morphed to RP for my married name. So it did change over the years, and that happens. Some people may have a couple of sign names, like they may have a sign name that they use with everybody else, but maybe their family has a special sign name for them, like a nickname for us. But you will see that sometimes. But it's oftentimes related to the characteristic or personality or physical feature of the person. I had a friend, she had these gorgeous ringlets of curls, and we signed Yvette. So that was her sign name because of the ringlets. It all changes depending on who the person is. The final thing is we're going to talk about is getting a deaf person's attention. You can't just yell at them, hey! They're not going to hear you. Unless they're maybe hard of hearing, they may pick it up. But there are some appropriate ways to get a deaf person's attention, and there are some not so appropriate ways to get a deaf person's attention. So for example, I'm not going to snap at a deaf person. Actually, you shouldn't be snapping at anybody. Let's be real. But I'm not going to snap at a deaf person. I'm going to wave at them. Now, I don't need to be crazy, but I do need to wave at them. Maybe I can tap their shoulder. Or if they're across the way or on the other side of somebody and I'm not trying to be loud or bring attention to myself, I may tap the person next to me or tap somebody across from me and ask them to get that person. So that is an appropriate way. You may also flicker lights. Now, let me give you a little bit of a warning about that one. We all know people have different medical concerns. So flashing lights, if somebody has a seizure, may tend to set somebody off. If that's the case, and you know somebody in the room has a seizure, that's probably not the best way to get somebody's attention. Secondly, using flashing lights is more appropriate if you're like you and one other person's in the room and you're opposite ends, or if you're in a group setting and you're trying to get everybody's attention. Flashing lights to get one person's attention when there's 50 other people in the room, it's probably not the most appropriate way. So thinking about how to best get their attention. Don't stomp at them. Nobody wants to be stomped at. I mean, you can. I don't like to use the stomp unless I'm like on a hard floor. Then maybe, possibly, I might stomp if it's like a wood floor and I want to get their attention that way. But typically, most people are not going to stomp for the same reason, the flickering lights. You're trying to get a group of people's attention, but otherwise, you're not just going to go around stomping to get one person's attention. I can tap on the table in front of me. Maybe I'm in a group of people and I'm tapping. And I used to, used to do that with my deaf kids. I'd have them at the big kidney table. And if I needed all their attention, maybe I would tap the table or I'd do this to get all their attentions. But if I just need one person, maybe I would tap directly right in front of them, just slightly. The motion of it just in itself would get their attention, but they would also feel the vibration in the table a little bit. But I'm not tapping it hard to get one person's attention. So just like in a hearing society, there are appropriate ways to get somebody's attention, and then there are not appropriate ways. So make sure we're using the appropriate ways to get somebody's attention.